Good evening. Okay, if you're listening to this and you're a human being, you are already a cheater in your relationship, and so is your partner. Not because you're thirsting after me, of course, but that is because it is in your DNA to be a cheater and to step out of line or run off on your partner or to have an emotional cheat or relationship with somebody else, or to get sexual needs met elsewhere, maybe through, let's say, imagine it like pornography or something like that, or to get it from someone else, or to get needs you should be having met by your monogamous partner with somebody else or some other outlet. Okay? And so the big taboo that nobody wants to talk about in society is that's everybody in every relationship. So what people tend to do is sort of ignore and play the ignorance is bliss game. And as long as the cheating behavior isn't set up in front of their face, then they'll quietly ignore it and tell themselves the story. So let's dig into this, and we'll explain how this works, how cheating works, and how you're already a cheater. Okay? There's a lot of judgment out there. Water, sorry. There's a lot of judgment out there. Once a cheater, always a cheater, right? But you're all cheaters. I mean that genetically. All right, you're genetically predisposed to it. So the question is, if you're going to have a monogamous relationship and be true to that and stick with one partner, how can we make that successful when we're already cheaters? It's in our DNA. So let's talk about that, all right? For 190,000 years, we were a polygamist species. All right, we tended to live in small hunter-gatherer tribes. We lived in areas of abundance. We generally didn't start migrating to places with harsh winters for the most part until the agricultural revolution. We could sustain that. Mostly people stayed in areas where they could have a high food supply. And they figured out how to live and survive in that environment for 190,000 years. Hunter-gatherer tribes survived by sharing everything. And that included mates. We're talking about situations where people wouldn't survive past 25, 30 years old. Okay? So they'd have a bunch of kids, then they would die. And that's how that would go. You'd have small tribes that could sustain each other. If I'm in one of those tribes, I catch something in my traps or catch game, and my neighbor or friend next to me or another guy in the tribe didn't catch anything, I would share my food with them. And then the vice versa might be true the opposite day. Well, mates were also shared, as well as child rearing was done by the village. Okay, it was little communes, so to speak, in these little small pockets. Now keep in mind, future planning wasn't much of a thing other than maybe migration and nomadic behaviors, but for the most part, you didn't have refrigeration, and for a long time during that 190,000 years, you didn't even have fire. So you had to consume what you gathered and what you hunted within a few days. And then that was it. And that was that lifestyle. It was a very harsh lifestyle, very short-term strategy type of a lifestyle, and a very short lifespan for like 190,000 years, okay? So for 190,000 years, and they've done and I won't get into it in this video, but there's a lot of evidence, not just from evolutionary psychology, but biological evidence based on how our bodies are designed, that we were designed to be polygamist, to sleep with multiple people, all right? Generally, what would happen, the males that we are genetic ancestors of from 190,000, years of genetic, of ancestry, we're survival of the men who were the top 40% of mateability, okay? So we were the most dominant survivable males. That's who our ancestors are, who would spread seed amongst multiple women. All right. Their imperative was to be sexually available quickly and to spread seed. That way, because the birth survival rate was so low, so babies tended to die before being born or upon childbirth or at a very young age for that time period. And therefore, you had to mate with multiple people, have multiple kids, and that way those kids were more survivable. Now, the women mated with multiple men as well, but they were more selective because women couldn't have, endless babies, right? They were selecting the most dominant survivable men in the tribe who could provide resources for the tribe as well. That is who they selected. So they would have sex during ovulation when their sexual hormones were at their peak and basically they're the horniest, right? With multiple men. And that wouldn't be like 100 men necessarily, right? Or it might be 2 or 3 of the most genetically viable dominant men that they could find. So this is why 60% of men in our history never mated, never had children. They were considered unmateable, incels, as we would say today. Whereas the other 40% were the ones that were mated with. The top 20% were the most desirable, and then the next 20% were the ones that by default got it mated with when those females couldn't secure a partner within the top 20. All right? So we are a product of that. Now, inroads in the agricultural revolution is actually 12,000 years ago. Okay, we figured out how to, farm and have agriculture and have, animals that we could, have in a farming situation where now we have long-term planning and we can stretch out our food supply. So this allowed us now to move into areas where there were scarce resources, where there were winters. And so in a place where there's a winter and a harvest, for example, you have to pre-plan your resources. This is an area now, a situation where although we could have more resources through agriculture, there's a scarcity of resources where people tended to migrate to. And so what that meant was, in the agricultural revolution 12,000 years ago, if I were to, grow my crops, plan accordingly, harvest, work hard during the crop season, hunt, save my food, preserve it as best as I can, because preservation methods would happen back then too, that when winter came, I had enough resources for me and my offspring to survive and whatever woman I've mated with in order to allow that survival. Whereas maybe my neighbor, the guy down, the guy in the next hut, okay, if he didn't prepare his resources properly, if he didn't work hard enough, he might not have enough resources for himself, his offspring. I have only enough resources for my offspring. If I share with him, I won't survive and my kids won't survive. So now we create a different society. So instead of a polygamous society, now we have a society with more rules. Those rules lead to monogamy. Monogamy is an adaptive mating strategy when resources are low. We look at monogamous or semi-monogamous animals and we see that. Wolves, for example, penguins, whales, certain species of whales, it's a situation where their resources are not abundant. And so they have to control the birth rate in order to ensure survivability of children. All right? So I can't just spread seed with multiple women now because I won't have the resources to take care of all those kids with multiple women. And the village won't have the resources necessarily to either in a situation of scarce resources. This is why communism doesn't work, generally speaking, right? Because someone's always working harder than somebody else. So now we have that society of rules. These rules are an adaptation to scarcity of resources. In comes the monogamy as a principle. Now we have social constructs, religion, things of that nature that promote monogamy. But that doesn't mean that monogamy itself is only a social construct. I don't necessarily ascribe to that because we have things like that are ingrained in us, such as jealousy, for example. mate protecting, for example. These are things we do, and it's as an instinctual response. So that means that for at least a number of generations, we built up this strategy. And so jealousy comes from paternal certainty, wanting to know that the kids I'm taking care of are mine, wanting to know that my resources are going towards my efforts with my woman, and that somebody else isn't and women were treated as property for a very long time. So coveting another man's wife or woman was like coveting property, okay? And so I need to know that my resources are going towards what's mine, all right? And so if somebody else is screwing my wife on the side and having babies, and she's getting pregnant with his babies, and my resources are taking care of those babies, you see where that becomes a problem. And this is what is believed to be the origin of jealousy, okay, and mate protecting. So we have monogamy as an adaptive strategy. Now that adaptation happens based off of scarcity of resources and based off of an environment where there's scarcity. So now I have to protect my resources to include protecting where those resources go. And now that leads to mate protecting and wanting to be monogamous, having monogamy as a value. Then the social constructs grow from there. Now we have societal rules. Don't covet another man's wife. Religion to back that up. Esoteric ideas behind it. Behind what is actually a mating strategy that developed. Not everybody ascribes to this, but if you think about it, and if you look at the evidence, it makes a lot of sense. All right? So we have two competing strategies in our DNA. We have polygamy and we have monogamy. Monogamy is the most recent adaptation, all right, based on scarcity of resources and needing to preserve resources. However, it hasn't been around the longest. We're 12,000 years in a monogamy as a value, okay, as a society, whereas polygamy was the standard of society for 190,000 years of our species evolution, all right? So let's look at epigenetics. Epigenetics is the environmental stimulus that causes your genetic response. So, give you a quick example. Let's say that I am genetically predisposed to be a professional basketball player, which, by the way, I'm not. I'm terrible at basketball. But let's pretend for a minute, okay? So I'm genetically predisposed to that. But let's say I never touch a basketball and I play video games throughout my entire formative years, all right? Even if I pick up a basketball when I'm 25, 30 years old, I've missed that window of opportunity to tap into my genetic abilities. The environmental stimulus was not there to epigenetically trigger my physical response and abilities that would allow me to have the talent to be a pro basketball player. I might be halfway decent at basketball, even if I pick it up when I'm 25 or 30, but I'll never make the pros. You see what I'm saying? And so that's how epigenetics works. The genetic code is already built in, okay? We've already evolved it. It's already been passed down from our parents. That includes things like personality traits and sexual drives and all of those things. But you have to have an environmental stimulus to trigger that genetic response, all right? So now going backwards again, we have monogamy, we have polygamy. These are two strategies, right? The environmental stimulus is what's going to cause our genetic system to create a reward system, a chemical reward system, to drive us towards one of these mating strategies, all right? Now, let's look at society today and look at the fact that monogamy developed under scarcity and scarcity of resources. Do we have scarcity today in a first world country? Take a look at your smartphone and guess again. All right? Even people who are the poorest of the poor here in the United States and Canada and Europe and first world, even second world countries, okay? They have access to food like you're not having. Most people don't starve to death in North America, all right? You can buy a double hamburger or cheeseburger. You can buy a double cheeseburger right now at McDonald's for $1. That's calories available that was maybe not the healthiest, but those are calories available that was not available during the development of monogamy, all right? So we have an abundant society. Well, that abundance of resources leads to short-term strategies, which now leads to polygamy. So now what you see is a social construct that is now changing over time. Okay, changing from having religious values, protecting women through those values, protecting men, trying to pair bond, marry, mate for life, the monogamous lifestyle, all that stuff, and having rules in society to promote that. Those rules have been going away for the last number of decades, since the 60s. You notice that. And it's because resources have become abundant. Communication is abundant. You no longer need to preserve resources for monogamy. That doesn't mean don't have monogamy. I'm not saying that, okay? There are clear benefits to monogamy. There are benefits that have been researched regarding monogamy. It's hard to do a comparative research with polygamy on this, but because people usually don't say openly that they're polygamist. People usually say, I'm getting married. They put up a monogamous front, and then they secretly lead a polygamous lifestyle. Most people. When the cheating rates are 70%, and that's just those who are admitting to it or getting caught, and that's not including the other behaviors that may not be actual sex with another person, but that leads that are opening up those doors, people are generally not monogamous today. All right? But those who claim monogamy and who claim to have only been with this one person tend to live longer, tend to report happiness in their old age, tend to have more resources and money. Just imagine if there wasn't 2 and 3 divorces, for example, and a number of different kids with different people, your resources would be probably higher, correct? So from a resource standpoint, monogamy is the best strategy. Arguably from a depth standpoint, if you don't have another outlet sexually and emotionally, and you burn all those bridges and you only have the one outlet, okay? The one person that is yours, you belong to her, she belongs to you, right? Now, and you X out any other options, that means all of that neurochemical reward and response can only happen with that one person. And so that means you have more depth of an experience with that one person. You only have, and we know this scientifically, your neurochemicals, your reward system, only is finite within a given amount of time. There's only so much of it you have on like a per hour, per day basis, okay? So it's like, we call it energy, but it's not really energy, it's neurochemicals that drive behavior, your dopamine, your oxytocin, your serotonin, okay? And so when you're getting those rewards, usually dopamine, oxytocin, from one person, that allows you to have a deeper experience with that one person. That's what monogamy gives you. If you spread it over a number of people, since it's finite over time, you can only get so deep with those other people. That's another benefit, the depth of a relationship. Now, some people would say that's a hindrance. Some would say it's a benefit, you know? So preserving resources, long-term happiness, it's a lot easier to ensure that you have someone with you in your old age to grow old with and to be a companion once the sex drive lowers tremendously and you're in your 70s, 80s, 90s, right? Versus you have polygamous style relationships, less of a chance that those people will stick around. Even if you're in a marriage/open relationship, there still means less of a chance. Not completely uncertain, but there is definitely less of a chance. More of a chance of being alone when you're old, basically. So I'm not trying to sell you on monogamy, but there's a high drive right now and a high promotion of polygamy. So I just wanted to remind you that there are benefits of monogamy, and there are reasons, logical reasons to choose it, not just based on religious doctrine and other stuff. There are reasonable reasons to choose monogamy, okay? However, if you choose monogamy, you're making a choice that the environmental stimulus will not provide you. When you live in a society of an abundance with literally a swipe left or right at your fingertips to go get pussy or to go get dick, that means that you are in a high rewarding environment for polygamy, okay? A lot of opportunities for polygamy today and for polygamous style behaviors, cheating behaviors, whether it's online, flirting online with somebody else, getting into DMs, Snapchatting, dating sites, hookup sites. There are websites. There were not this 100 years ago, you didn't have a website that allowed people to hook up, okay, to hook up while they're married and discreetly hook up on the side. And just a plethora of opportunities. You log on, you put a picture in, you look cool, and next thing you know, you're getting laid by somebody else. Right? I mean, it's so easy now. Imagine being in the Wild West and having that. You don't have that opportunity. I'm sure cheating happened back then, and people also got murdered and shot over it too, right? Because there's a lot of mate protection back then. However, nowadays, somebody cheats and you kill them for it, well, they're probably going to jail. All right? Where there was a time in our history where you could kill somebody for having sex with your wife. You know what I mean? And wives could be stoned to death for it. I mean, really serious consequences in our human history for that stuff, right? There are no consequences now. So, genetically speaking, you have it in you to be polygamous, which means to act on those drives and to fuck other people. Genetically speaking, you're already predisposed to cheating. Do not think that your wonderful man or your wonderful woman, your one-itis woman that's on the pedestal, okay, is your angel and she could never do anything like that because she's such an angel. In fact, I met her at church or whatever nonsense. It's in her DNA. I promise you, she will do it. Okay, she will do it. Or you will do it. All right? You will find yourself doing things and you don't know why you're doing them. You shouldn't be doing them. Why the fuck am I doing this? Later on, upon looking at it. When you have a behavior, or she has a behavior and she's doing it, and she doesn't realize exactly why, and she doesn't make sense, and it is cheating style behavior, where's that coming from, guys? It's obviously coming from the hindbrain, the mammalian brain. It's not a conscious thing, okay? So you have things that drive decision making. Your conscious logical mind they estimate 7% of your decisions on a daily basis is a logical decision. The rest is a decision based on habits or based on emotions or short-term feelings. Those feelings come from the unconscious mind, which is like, we use that to describe things you've experienced before. So maybe something in your childhood, something in your upbringing creates or triggers a response. And this is what you do. Let's say you always had a messy room when you were a kid. Now you have a messy room as an adult. That's an example of a habit based on unconscious, defined behaviors, right? Or it comes from your hindbrain, your mammalian brain, the part of the unconscious that is instinctual. That's an instinct, okay? So think fight or flight, sexual mating strategies, looking at girls if you're a guy. These are things that are instincts. Setting up hypergamies. Using hypergamy to set up a mate switching as a female. These things are genetically driven. Okay, these things are in your hindbrain. They drive behaviors. And what's interesting is when you say something or you try to set up a standard or a rule that defies what the hindbrain imperative is, people will get indignant. They will get indignant. They will yell at you. They will get upset. They will use rationalization strategies to talk about how terrible and toxic and this and that and the other it would be to not allow me to do what's in my hindbrain, which if I'm a guy, that means spread seed to multiple women. Or if I'm a female, that means set up for a mate switch, okay? So you say something like, for example, okay, well, you trust your partner, you believe 100% in an open, transparent relationship, cool. Well, then you hand her your phone and she hands you your phone and you guys go through each other's phones. Oh, fuck. Watch the indignation. Suggest that somewhere, anywhere. Whether it is a conservative group of people, whether it is a red-pilled group of people, whether it is a mainstream, sitcom dating strategy, blue-pilled group of people, doesn't matter. You present that, indignation. Because there's a hindbrain drive to, as a guy, spread seed. And there's a hindbrain drive for a female to mate switch and set up mate switching just in case husband dies in the farm or at war or, she decides to level up or whatever, right? And they've done the stats. The data is out there. This isn't even it's not an argument. Females it's like over 80% or some ridiculously high stat, already know who they're going to mate switch with if it doesn't work out with their current partner. Females will have backup plans upon backup plans on dudes they're going to hook up with if you're not acting right, or if it doesn't work out with you. That's a hindbrain drive. It's a genetic drive. Where does that come from? Well, when you had high risk environments for, most of our history, and females relied on men for resources to survive, if she's pair bonded in a monogamous society, with a man, and that man dies, falls out of his ship, falls out of his boat while he's fishing, and he's dead, and she's got 2 kids to take care of, she better have a backup plan, right? Or she won't have the resources to survive. So that's where that comes from. It's a genetic drive. And your woman, that little angel of yours, will set up mate switching and not realize she's doing it. It's not a conscious decision. Her hindbrain is driving it. And then if you call it out, you'll have indignation. No, I trust you. I love you. I would never do that. But she won't just be like sad about it. She'll be mad about it. You know what I mean? Like, how dare you not let me be friends with Bill from accounting? We just had lunch or whatever. Like, she'll be indignant. You don't trust me. That's a big one. And same thing. If a female says, well, wait a second, what are you doing on Facebook? How many chicks are you on other chicks' pages, liking all their shit, hearting all their shit, commenting? Oh, you're an asshole. You don't trust me. I'm just liking and hearting other people's shit. What's wrong with that? Of course I love you, right? And so, and of course for seed spreading, this is why strip clubs are more effective for males usually, right? Because males there's a difference between seed spreading and mate switching. All right, so we'll get into that. So mate switching was for females. It's different. Mate switching happens because security, meaning being able to get resources from a man, is a part of their paradigm when they mate select. Okay? So, she's considering the security element. Now, she could be home with the beta nice guy that takes care of the bills and watches the kids, and then going to the bar on a girl's night and getting fucked in an alley by the muscular tattoo guy who is never going to take care of her financially, but it fits all of her sexual needs and her alpha drives. She wants to, have that guy's baby, but then have Bob at home take care of her with the money. But she's considering, her hindbrain is considering that security element. And so that's why it's a mate switch. Whether it's a one-time event or whether it's usually a rationalization or a justification. I cheated with alpha guy in the alley. I want to leave my husband. I just don't know. There's all this rationalization that women do when all they're doing is going with a genetically predisposed strategy. Okay. And then men just seed spread. Okay. So men, are interested in just spreading seed amongst multiple women, and they're not concerned about being taken care of by that woman. So this is why the guy isn't considering his resources when he just bangs the slutty waitress or the secretary who comes on to him and they work late that day or they go on a business trip. This is what happens. The guy's hindbrain says, all right, I'm going to spread seed right now. This is why guys tend to look more at females, whereas as females don't look quite as much. They do look, by the way, but it's not quite the same. It's a whole nother topic though, okay? But it's in the hindbrain for either side to cheat. It's just the driver to cheat is different. For guys, it's seed spreading. For females, it's mate switching. So it's actually 2 things. Having babies with the most physically and behaviorally dominant male. Of course, my dog's gonna bark while I'm doing my video. To have sex with that guy and have that guy's babies, but also to consider that security element, to consider being taken care of and how they're going to pay for the kids and themselves, right? So females have that as built in as part of their strategy, whereas males don't care about that. But it's instinctual, okay? You're predisposed to it. You're going to do it. She will do it. And if you don't have sex with someone else, you're going to toe that line. You're going to be talking with somebody or some female in a way you shouldn't. You're going to be exchanging messages, doing things with somebody in a way that you should not. And that if your female knew about it, she would be upset. Okay? You're going to maybe emotionally cheat. Talk about and get emotional and validation and attention from somebody else that's not your monogamous partner. And she will do the same thing. She will go on a trip. She will develop guy friends. She will be sad because she doesn't have anyone to talk to. And the girls here aren't good enough to talk to because they're, doing their own thing. Or they're, competitive, like females are competitive, right? And she'll have all the justifications and rationalization as to why she has to have guy friends. And we all know that guys are not friends with females, generally speaking. Guys want to fuck females, and then they befriend them, hoping that she'll monkey branch to them, which happens quite often. So she'll have guy friends because she doesn't have anyone to talk to and she wants to be social. And these are all justifications for hypergamy, And then, of course, society says, well, if you don't let her do that and if you question any of that stuff, society wants to tell weaker men that you're weak for having any questions. You're weak for trying to set standards and control the relationship because you're supposed to blindly trust and let her do that. If you're good enough, she won't cheat on you. I got news for you. She will cheat on you. I'm about to kill my dogs. I don't know if you guys can hear them on the video. Shut up! All right. I'm very satisfied I got to do that on video. So, anyway. So, back to the topic at hand, all right? So, you're predisposed and she's predisposed. So we know that, okay? The question is, how do we not let that happen? Well, first of all, we got to get rid of the rationalization, the little rationalization things that happen, the neurotic rationalizations that we do to deny the facts that I just presented to you. Well, I love her. I would never cheat. You have the beta guys that do that. I would never do this. I would never do that. You don't want to, of course. But it's an ingrained behavior. You see what I mean? And the females are the worst with it. I will listen to, and I've coached a lot of people. I've coached a lot of females, okay? Because I do help females out quite a bit getting what they want. And I will listen to them be completely duplicitous to themselves as they discuss the thing. Do you know what I mean? Justifying the cheating behavior, justifying, rationalizing her behavior. Well, I just want to be friends with this guy. I should be able to be friends with who I want to be friends with, and I should be able to have conversations I want to have conversations with. They're like, they turn into little children. They literally turn into little, 12-year-old children, indignant and sad and mad because they're not getting their way or they're being challenged. Why? Because their mating strategy is being challenged, and that feels really bad, and their whole entire being wants to reject that and work against that. You see, when you challenge something that exists in someone's hindbrain, you're challenging something that's a part of their genetic biological drive, and they will resist that. And so that's the first step, is to not resist it, to admit, I have a propensity to cheat. No matter how much in love I am right now with the person I'm with, no matter how much I want to be a monogamous relationship and never mate switch, I am predisposed to it because I'm a human being. And that's okay. That is not anything to be ashamed of. That's not anything for anybody in society to shame you for, because we are all guilty. Some more than others, some to different degrees than others, some who grew up harder or had female examples of cheaters and mate switching behavior all around them, stuff like that, grew up with that, might have more of a predisposition. Somebody who's cheated before, actually done the act of cheating, actually had sex with other people when they're in a committed relationship, is now predisposed to do it again. So there are certain people that are more predisposed to it than others, but we are all guilty. So there is no judgment in admitting, okay, that we all have the propensity to do this because we're human beings as part of our DNA. So now once we recognize that, what do? We have to set up controls in our relationships. We have to set standards. We set these standards because the outside world is only going to stimulate a polygamous strategy. And understand, here's how that works, okay? So for a female, she could be with one partner, and then her dopamine and oxytocin and all the feel-good chemicals are going to fire with that emotional and sexual bond with that one partner. Okay, and that plugs along, and provided that he is constantly leveling up and helping achieve her hypergamous needs every year after year, he becomes a little bit better. So she's constantly sort of chasing excellence with him. Her hypergamy will be satisfied, and she will be satisfied. She'll be monogamous, but mainly those internal drives have been giving her rewards for monogamy, and she's been getting negative input with the idea of cheating or going off somebody else, okay? That's what religion and societal rules did for a long time, is it gave people negative feedback, and it gave those neurochemicals a negative hit if you thought of or tried to or stepped out of line. You know what I'm saying? Male or female, all right? But nowadays, that's not in the environment anymore, okay? And so the other way to go is the getting that happy chemical hit for hedonistic behavior, for mate switching, having sex with this guy, having this guy want me too, and so on and so forth. Getting all the attention from multiple men. That's a basic, baseline of a starting point for this stuff for females. And so that is how this polygamous behavior gets predisposed to us. It's a reward system there. And so because of epigenetics, and we could get rewards for monogamy and go in that direction, or we could get rewards for polygamy and go in that direction. Now you choose what you want to do, but I know that society and a lot of people listening to this, and will listen to it later, want monogamy. So this is how you have to have it happen. All right, if you're the man, you lead the relationship. That's just the way it is. Okay, we will have a discussion about that another time, but that is what our biological drive is for. So as a man, you lead the relationship and you set the standards. You set the standards for both yourself and for her. If you set a standard for her, you have to mirror that standard. You don't have double standards and you don't have hypocrisy, or she will not fall in line and follow your standards. So if you're like, hey, I don't want you to have guy friends, and then you're hanging out with a bunch of chicks, you know what I mean? I don't want you to go on friend dates, and then you're going out with Becky with the good hair. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to work, because she's going to see you. It might work for a while. It depends on how alpha dominant you are, and it depends on how you run your shit. But chances are she's going to step out of line. There's a big fallacy that the more alpha the guy is, the less he gets cheated on. That's true, but only to a degree. Very alpha men who run their show and even make their women very happy still get cheated on, all right? And they'll get cheated on by weaker males. It happens all the time, and we've observed this in the animal kingdom, where you have the alpha dominant gorilla or chimpanzee, okay, and he fights off and kind of anyone else in their little animal tribe that tries to mate with certain females, he'll scare them off. But when he's not looking or occupied, and sometimes there'll be a team effort for this, and they've looked at this in anthropology, the beta male will kind of sneak around, and she'll sneak around and go off with a weaker male, and she'll mate with that weaker male in exchange for food, or exchange for something from that weaker male. And then she'll go creep back to the alpha and then be under that alpha's wing again. This happens in the animal kingdom, and I've watched it happen time and time again with human beings. So no, running your relationship as an alpha dominant guy and doing all the right things, as a female, okay, or a male, will not ensure that this person will not do cheating behaviors or set up cheating. And I'm not saying outright cheat. Sometimes it's just behaviors that point to that at a later time, okay? So don't think you're safe because you do the right things. Don't think you're safe because you've read a bunch of books on how to game women, and maybe you've been listening to my shit, and it will make it less likely to happen for sure. The happier she is and the happier he is, the less likely either one will step out, but it happens, and it still happens. It'll happen as a one-off. Somebody at the right time, the right amount of alcohol, triggers the right amount of things in that hindbrain, and next thing you know, that's where she goes. Why? Because no controls were set up. So monogamy works as a strategy when the environment stimulates that, either through scarcity or societal controls, usually a mixture of both, okay? So you can have the benefits of monogamy and know that your woman is 100% yours and is faithful to you. And she can know that you're going to be the same way. But you have to actually work at it. You have to do shit. It will not happen on accident. So what you have to do is fight for your partner by courting her. She needs to be available to the man. You know, if you're a female, you have to be available to your man. You need to be sexually pleasing each other. You need to be working hard to be with each other. You need to work to be with that other person as if they could go away and be with somebody else if you're not meeting standards. Both of you need to have that mentality. Both of you need to work. There is no rest and, okay, I got her, now I'm going to relax. There is no relaxing. And that's especially, by the way, if you're a man. If you're a man, there's no rest for you. That is the conditions of being a man. You get some benefits, like you get to lead and stuff, but the negative side is that you get all the responsibility too. And that means that, you can't rest. You have to maintain frame in that relationship and lead properly. Okay? So, you set standards. As a man, you say, okay, here are our standards. And it's up to you. I'm not going to tell you what standards to set. Some people, for example, absolutely can exchange phones and can do that, have each other's passwords. Some people don't believe in that. They don't want to do that. And that's okay too. Some people want to know where she's going, what she's doing. Some people are okay with not knowing certain things, but there's other communication going on. Whatever the standard is, you have to set it. But you set up a standard because what it does is, cheating is like a door that is right here. When you set standards up, it sets barriers in place and it puts that door further and further away with more obstacles to go through to get to it, all right? Because it's an instinctual drive, but logically the man and the woman who say, in theory, okay, provided that they have integrity, when they say I do at the altar, they're not looking to cheat, okay? So logically, if they face the fact that they're doing cheating behavior, they're going to stop that or do something to fix it. You know what I mean? If they face it, admit to it to themselves, they will try to fix it because they want monogamy, logically. But their hindbrain is trying to set up this polygamist escape plan for them, all right? And so if you allow no control, she'll set up this polygamist escape plan, and next thing you know, cheating happens. Because see, cheating rarely is, I'm sick of my man, I am going to fuck another guy. So here's this elaborate plan I'm going to plan out to go make this happen. That rarely happens. It usually happens like, I'm not satisfied with my relationship, I'm working on other stuff, I've been on Facebook a lot. Well, I'm a part of this group, this fitness group here, and now I'm IMing some guy, IMing. Now I'm IMing 2 or 3 or 4 guys. I'm IMing these guys, and they're sending me stuff. Now we're flirting. I'm flirting with a few guys. I've exchanged pictures, and then, you develop this online thing, and maybe 4 months later, things aren't really improving in the relationship. It's kind of up and down, but you're sort of getting this escape outlet, you know what I mean, and doing this stuff. And the next thing you know, you're meeting up with a guy she's meeting up with a guy that she met online in some fitness group in Facebook, and, he's coming into town one day, and they have a few drinks, and, well, next thing you know, they have sex. This is kind of how it happens, right? Or you're friends with a bunch of dudes because you work with a bunch of dudes, and some guy calls you, says, come on over, you should come over, we're going to have get together, see my place. And she's like, you know what, I'm sick of my man, he's kind of a dick, and, I'm going to escape, I'm going to go somewhere. He sets no controls up whatsoever, so she goes, he has no idea where she is, she just says, I'm going out with friends. Next thing you know, she's at a dude's house. All right, and the dude is at his house, and there's nobody else there, and now they're, well, fuck it, I'm gonna hang out with this guy, I guess, because my man's kind of a dick. So, but I'm not, she's not thinking of cheating yet. But now they're talking, hanging out, and now she's talking about her relationship, but she's referring to him as an ex, even though he's not an ex, because she doesn't want to let him know. Well, why wouldn't she want to let him know? Because her hindbrain says, set up a mating strategy to mate switch right now, because you're not happy. You know what I mean? You need the security of having somebody else. So set that up. That's what her hindbrain's saying. Logically, she's not challenging it. She just finds herself referring to the married guy she's with as her ex, and they're talking, and next thing you know, like, he's talking, well, wow, like, she talks about how shitty he is. He's like, wow, she's really shitty. You don't deserve that. And then she's like, yeah, I don't deserve that. You're right. Next thing you know, they're fucking. Okay, and then she's like, wow, like when I had better sex with this guy than I have had with my husband ever, so maybe I'll come over next weekend. All right, so that's how cheating fucking happens. It is a gradual process. It's not like she set out and said, you know what, I'm gonna go meet up with some dude at his place and tell my husband to go fuck off. You know, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like, I'm going to have this conversation online with this girl, let it get out of hand. Next thing you know, we're exchanging nudes and meeting up, and well, we're just going to, and you know what I mean? It just, it happens in steps and stages. So when you set standards, what you're doing is you're putting barriers up in between that door of cheating. So there's many opportunities to hit a barrier where I have to do something special. So if he can check your phone at any time, right? That means that you can't just text her, I am this person. Could you work around it? Get an app of some sort that allows you to do it secretly, or get a burner phone. Well, you could, but now you actually have to take the effort to download an app, pay for it, and have this thing, or go buy a burner phone to do it. That is an extra step now for you to set up cheating behavior. Most people, if faced with that extra step, it gives them an opportunity to go, logic kicks in. My logic brain says, wait a second, what the fuck am I doing? Why am I considering buying a burner phone to have online conversations with dudes? And so then they can address a problem in the relationship. It doesn't fully prevent cheating. You still have to do all the other things right and make her happy in the relationship. But she's less likely to do these things to set it up unconsciously, where next thing you know, she's falling on a guy's dick after hanging out and driving around in his truck and, you know, partying a little bit, drinking. They went to dinner, but it was a group of guys. It's two girls and, you know, 4 guys, and, you know, and I had too much to drink and I was driving with them. And then he started, you know, kissing me on the neck, and next thing you know, he's fingering my pussy, I'm grabbing his dick. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's how the shit goes down. It doesn't happen like, whoa, like, you know, and you know, and then it can happen too, like when someone's out of town, right? Military runs into cheating constantly, because military training environments that are not combat arms, so you're talking about 90% of the military are like fucking sex fuckfests for soldiers. I mean, literally, they are just hooking up left and right, because it's a isolated environment with a hookup culture, and they can be somebody else, cheat on husbands, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, and nobody knows any better. Nobody has any idea. That's a deep, dark secret there about the military, okay? And so they'll go away for a month. They'll be FaceTiming and talking with their other significant other, and then going to meet to go do PT with some guy and go for a run or do whatever, and they're banging in some truck somewhere, you know? This is what happens, like, all of the time at a very high percentages. So you have to set up controls. Now, I'm not going to, the video is long enough as it is, so I think I've made the case. It's a key to happiness and security in monogamy. Discipline is freedom. Okay, that's from Jocko. Go to Jocko Podcast, Navy SEAL. I love his work. Okay, discipline equals freedom. Look that up. All right. Well, it applies to your relationship. You apply discipline in your relationship and you set standards. Now there's freedom. Because I will tell you, I'm in a monogamous relationship, and I will tell you this. I love knowing and having the freedom of knowing that women have no hold on me whatsoever. I can go into a room full of hot, you know, lingerie models just sitting around half naked, and I don't give any fucks. I don't care. Now, back when I was single, I kind of didn't care anyway, and that's why I was so successful. But one of the reasons. However, there is no hold that any woman has over me, because I don't give a shit. Because I have the one person I'm committed to. That's the person I'm having sex with. You want women to not have a hold on your behavior, regardless of how pretty you are. Pretend that you don't want to have sex with them. That's the answer, all right? And so for me, monogamy, not having any woman whatsoever, I don't care. Bank teller, receptionist, waitress, fucking somebody in a position of power, somebody that's subordinate, they cannot use attractiveness, flirting, any of their womanly behavior, social behaviors, to sway me as a man. They don't have any hold or control over me. Wow, that's very powerful as a man to have that, because I have a monogamous situation at home. Okay, now I'm not promoting one-itis. That's a whole nother concept. It's not what I'm promoting. Okay, but by isolating my desire for one person, I don't give a fuck about anybody else other than them as humans, right? But not as sexual objects. I don't care, right? And that makes it much easier for me to talk to women, to offer objective advice, to have genuine friendships too, without, crossing lines. However, with those friendships, boundaries are set. My woman and myself, we set these boundaries, okay? Having friendships with men, boundaries are set. She's not just doing whatever the fuck she wants, okay? And I won't allow that in the relationship. Why is that? Because of everything I just talked about. So if you're in a monogamous relationship where you want that, and you value your partner, and you love your partner, and you want her, or him if you're a female listening, but you want her to value you, look up to you, respect you, see you as her sexually best option, you have to set standards with clear boundaries and consequences so that something gets in the way on the way to going through that cheating door. All right? Something gets in the way to cause the frontal lobe of her brain to say, okay, wait a second, this is too far. And even with that, there's only going to be like a 90% or better. The most perfect couples in the world still will kind of cross some lines somewhere along the line, or allow for lines to be crossed a little bit. But the difference is, because they have the standards, they catch it and they correct it. And it's not like each partner's running around spying on the other person. You don't have to have that when you have standards. We're not talking about rules where the other person doesn't want to follow the rules, and so they're breaking she's breaking your rules all the time, and you're the angry guy, the angry beta running around, spying on her, looking at her phone when she's not looking, putting GPS trackers on her shit. You know what I mean? Like, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about paranoid, untrusting relationships. What we are talking about is relationships where trust is built. What we have a saying in the Army, in the military, amongst us NCOs, which is trust but verify. Okay? It's not like you must trust, therefore blindly trust her, and she blindly trusts you, and everyone has this, blissful ignorance of what the other person's behavior is. That's not how trust is built. Trust is built by proven behaviors, having standards and proving that they're trustworthy by behaving within those standards, doing actions that indicate I'm a trustworthy person. When challenged, the action demonstrate that can be trusted. Okay? So that is how you run a relationship as a man, as a woman. That's how you let your man, or you have your man, run a relationship. Now, when I keep saying the man runs it, that doesn't mean you don't have a say or an opinion. Your opinion is powerful, sometimes more powerful than his, all right? But you're letting him know what the standards you want, and he is weighing it out, and he is deciding what's the best for the direction of your relationship. So whatever standards you guys decide, and you can IM me, whatever. If you need coaching, if you need couples coaching, that's what I do, all right? One of the things on how to get some standards together in your relationship, how to do it in a way that you're both happy and actually more free. See, when you have standards, you're actually more free, okay? You're not restricted. There's freedom in that discipline, all right? And so there's ways to do that, and you can ask me questions about that. But I just wanted to open the idea up to you, because society right now, amongst many different communities, and even some that I respect, is promoting this idea that you don't have to have standards. A very laissez-faire, well, if she's going to cheat, she's going to cheat kind of a mindset. Yeah, she's going to cheat, she's going to cheat. The relationship ends, it ends. You move on, all right? However, standards are what will keep it together and allow one of the things that will keep it together. Standards, sex, and constant courting and respecting each other's values, okay? But standards is one of those things that will keep her in line, keep her in pocket, and keep yourself in line, too. I'm talking to you guys, all right? So, don't listen to, it's actually a feminist imperative that's trying to optimize blind hypergamy and cuckoldry, trying to optimize resource stealing from one guy and fucking other guys. That is the current societal imperative. It's wrong and it's fucked up. All right. I'm not saying polygamous strategies are wrong if both partners are consenting to it. But what I'm talking about is situations like cheating where the other partner is not consenting to it. All right. And right now, feminism, sorry to say feminist, but you're promoting the strategy. Okay. And so I won't have that. And so that's why I'm putting out this video. It's rather long, but I hope that you enjoy it and understand where it's coming from. If you want monogamy to be successful, and again, we're not talking about just dating people, but we're talking about isolating yourself to one partner. Okay, if you want monogamy to be successful, you will have to set standards up so that the conditions in the environment stimulate monogamous behavior and that you ward off the environmental stimulus for polygamous behavior. And that's how you'll be successful. Thanks for listening to my lengthy video, but I think it was worth it. Hit like, share it with your religious leaders. This is one of the few ones that your religious leaders might like, besides my language and some of it. Okay? It's going to go on YouTube. Go to my YouTube channel, jam the like button, subscribe. Help me out. I have a message to give out that's going to help a lot of people, and I want you to help me get it out there. All right, thanks. Talk to you later.